Shalom, 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 bunyam yasha Allah, bunyam tazadak, bunyam malak, barakathum, bahashim Yahweh, bahashim hamashiach Yahawashi, kal halayim, la Yahweh thum yad. It's your brother Ak Lamak, the Preceptionist, repping Mount Zion Reborn, who are the truth tellers. And before we begin this lesson on the New Testament, according to the prophets in Torah. And before we dive into it, the lesson is not built on private interpretation, emotional tradition, or theological expansion. Every point is presented through the law, prophets, and the Psalms, exactly how Yahawashi instructed in Luke. So the purpose is not to introduce a new framework, but to examine whether the apostles taught anything beyond what was already written. So the New Testament does not open a new case. It continues an active courtroom proceeding already in motion long before Rome existed. The prophets have already spoken. The words are already set in stone, decided at the throne of heaven. The covenant had already been sworn. The judgments had already been issued. The decrees had already been recorded. The restoration had already been promised. The throne already ruled. Nothing in the New Testament overrides those rulings. Nothing redacts them. Nothing modifies them. Nothing cancels them. Nothing replaces them. Every prophetic judgment remains on the docket until the one appointed to execute them returns to carry them out. And that is the mind frame you must take before even entering into the New Testament epistles. Because the Old Testament, which is labeled in the Bible, doesn't just go away because they're now in Rome under another heathen rule. And the Messiah does not arrive to renegotiate the covenant. He arrives under a subpoena, bound to the testimony of Moses and the prophets. He does not come to reinterpret their words. He comes to enforce them. Deuteronomy 18:18, God says he will speak the words that I give him to speak. So he does not come to dissolve the Israelites' identity. He comes to restore it. This is the mind frame that you must bring into the New Testament. You must not go to Matthew 1:1 and start anew. Because the Messiah does not come to silence the prophets. He comes to vindicate them. You see, the modern world reads the New Testament as if God changed his mind. Malachi himself says, God changes not, so therein lies the problem. It's too much emotional attachment superimposed onto the text. The prophets say he did not change his mind. The covenant says he did not. The judgments say he did not change his mind. The restoration blueprint says he did not. The throne decrees say he did not change his mind. So every prophetic word still stands in full legal force. The rebuke of the nations, the restoration of the Israelites, the regathering of the scattered, the reversal of the curses, the reinstatement of the blessings, the enthronement of David's son, and the vengeance written for the oppressors. None of these have been executed. So you must understand that means none of these have been fulfilled. None of these have been annulled. The problem within the Christian church is they don't know the majority of the Bible. They read beginning at the New Testament epistles and superimpose that belief system that they derive from that portion of the book and superimposes it over the first portion of the book. And there's not another book in the world you can read and interpret like that. Why would you think you can do that to the Holy Scriptures? So the New Testament cannot be read as a universal religion, a spiritualized covenant, or a redefined people. It must be read as the continuation of the last covenant God ever made and the unfolding of the story that he told. The apostles do not preach innovation, they preach continuity. The Messiah does not introduce a new order, he completes the old one. The gospel is not a new message, it is the arrival of the message the prophets already promised. So until every judgment is executed, until every decree is completed, until every oath is fulfilled, until every promise is honored, until every nation is rebuked, until the Israelites are restored, the case remains open. The covenant remains active, and the Messiah must return to finish the record. This is the New Testament according to the prophets. I pray you get understanding. The Messiah's hermeneutic. When we examine any doctrine, claim, or teaching pertaining to the New Testament, the first question must be, what did Yahawashi say the scriptures were about? And if he established the framework himself, then every later teaching, prophecy, and apostolic statement must remain inside that foundation. This is the book of Luke, chapter 24, verses 25 through 27, and it reads, Then he said unto them, O fools, and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Ought not Christ to have suffered these things and to enter into his glory? And beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded unto them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. This is the Messiah issuing a judicial rebuke, not a gentle correction. He does not accuse them of failing to understand him. He accuses them of failing to believe the prophets. This is the interpretive law of the entire New Testament. If the prophets did not speak it, the disciples had no right to expect it. If Moses did not establish it, Christ did not fulfill it. If Scripture did not promise it, the gospel does not contain it. Christ does not begin with his resurrection. He begins with Moses. He begins with the prophets. He begins with the scriptures already written. The Messiah does not create a new religion. He reveals the meaning of the old one. And this is the foundation of the entire lesson. The New Testament is not innovation. It is fulfillment. It is not expansion. It is restoration. It is not universalism. It is covenant continuity. Everything that follows must bow to this precept. This is the book of Acts, chapter 24, verse 14, and it reads, "But this I confess unto thee, that after the way which they call heresy, so worship I the God of my fathers, believing in all things which were written in the law and in the prophets." Apostle Paul does not claim originality. He claims continuity. He does not preach beyond Moses. He does not preach beyond the prophets. He does not preach beyond the covenant. His message is not new. It is the prophetic message fulfilled. And this alone destroys every modern attempt to detach the New Testament from the prophets. Paul himself refuses to speak a single word outside their testimony. He binds himself to the prophetic record. He places his doctrine under the authority of the scriptures already written. He does not expand the covenant. He does not redefine the people. He does not introduce a new theological category. He stands inside the framework Moses built and the prophets enforced. And if your doctrine cannot be found in Moses and the prophets, Paul would not accept it. Paul would not preach it. And if Paul would not preach it, no one else has the authority to. The failure to acknowledge this is not a small interpretive error. It is a hermeneutical collapse. Paul already says his letters take a back seat, but detractors continue to search his letters for points of refutation. They treat the epistles as independent revelation instead of prophetic fulfillment documented. Paul doesn't sit the throne. He doesn't sit on the throne. He does not legislate covenant. He does not override Moses. Paul doesn't outrank the prophets. The law and the prophets had authority over Paul. Since before he found a pen and pad, before he wrote any of his epistles, and after he wrote his epistles, he remained under that authority. So if Paul contradicts Torah or the prophets, the Torah or the prophets do not move. You do not trash Torah and the prophets. If Paul contradicts that, then you throw Paul's letters away, not the other. This is not disrespect. This is covenant order. This was the command from the beginning, because the throne belongs to the Most High. The foundation belongs to Moses. The enforcement belongs to the prophets, and the fulfillment belongs to the Messiah. The witness belongs to the apostles. Paul is a witness, not a lawgiver. He is a servant. He is not sovereign. He is a messenger, not a monarch. People don't understand the epistles because they're reading them as independent revelation instead of the prophetic fulfillment documented. They treat Paul as if he is unveiling a new religion when Paul himself says he is only confirming what was already written. And therein lies the problem. Anyone who uses the epistles to refute Torah is doing hermeneutical violence. They are reversing the hierarchy. They are elevating first century male above the covenant. They are placing commentary above the commandment, and they are enthroning the messenger above the one who sent him. Paul's own words forbids this. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verses 17 and 18, and it reads, "Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I come not to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto thee, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled." Christ forbids the thought that his mission dissolves the law or the prophets. He does not loosen the covenant. He does not cancel the judgments. He does not nullify the prophetic decrees. He binds his entire ministry to the scriptures already written. Fulfill does not mean abolish, it means execute, to bring every prophetic word to its appointed end. Then he seals it with an oath. Heaven and earth must collapse before the law does. Creation itself would have to fall apart before any single prophetic judgment fails. And this includes every curse that was spoken, every vengeance that was declared, every recompense that was promised, every nation marked for judgment, every restoration oath that was sworn, and every throne decree issued by Yahweh. None of these have passed. None of these have been annulled. Therefore, none of these have been executed in full. All prior judgments at Yahweh's throne still stand, and they remain active, binding, and awaiting execution, because the Messiah is the chosen executor of those judgments, the one who appointed him to carry it out is the one who the prophets declared must carry it out. He must return to finish the prophetic record. There is no way around this. He was selected to be the executor. That means sweet Jesus is coming with vengeance and wrath. If the law still stands, the judgments still stand. And if the prophets stand, then the decrees stand. And if the decrees stand, then the executor must return. Christ's own words make his return judicially unavoidable. He must come back to render vengeance. He must execute the written judgments. He must vindicate the covenant. He must restore the people and finalize every prophetic decree. The Christian church, they just blanket declare that he fulfilled it all out of pure ignorance, because they don't know anything as it pertains to the Old Testament and the history regarding these people. How many years must you avoid this? How many years will you disregard "Thus saith Yahweh"? The New Testament does not weaken the prophets. It guarantees their completion. So if Christ fulfilled it all, then every judgment settled at Yahweh's throne must already be executed, and they are not. Therefore, the Messiah must return to render vengeance, because the law and the prophets still stand in full judicial force. And this is the line that shuts down the Christian argument. This is a jurisdictional trap for Christian theology. You cannot escape it without contradicting Christ himself. The Gospel according to the prophets. Having established that Yahawashi placed all understanding within the law, the prophets, and the Psalms, the next step is determining how the apostles define the gospel itself and whether their message remained consistent with that scriptural foundation. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verses 9 through 11, and it reads, O Zion, that bringest good tidings, the good news. Get thee up into a high mountain, O Jerusalem, that bringest good tidings. Lift up thy voice with strength, lift it up, be not afraid. Say unto the cities of Judah, behold your God. Behold, Yahweh will come with a strong hand, and his arm shall rule for him. Behold, his reward is with him, and his work before him. He shall feed his flock like a shepherd. He shall gather the lambs with his arms, and carry them in his bosom, and shall gently lead those that are with young. So Prophet Isaiah does not preach a universal gospel. He preaches the good news to Zion. The gospel is not God coming to the nations. It is God returning to his people, the afflicted, the scattered, to the city he chose, to the flock he scattered, to the covenant he established. The shepherd imagery is not sentimental, it's judicial. He gathers his flock, not a new flock, not a mixed flock, not a redefined flock. The gospel begins with Zion because the covenant begins with Zion. This is the prophetic definition of the gospel. God returns, God restores, God gathers. Anything outside this is not the gospel Isaiah preached, and therefore not the gospel the Messiah fulfilled. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 52 verses 7 through 10, and it reads, How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him that bringeth good tidings, the good news, that publisheth peace, that bringeth good tidings of good, that publisheth salvation, that saith unto Zion, Thy God returneth. Thy watchmen shall lift up the voice, with the voice together shall they sing, for they shall see eye to eye, when Yahweh shall bring again Zion. Break forth into joy, sing together, ye waste places of Jerusalem, for Yahweh had comforted his people, and he had redeemed Jerusalem. Yahweh had made bare his holy arm in the eyes of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our God. So Isaiah defines the gospel with surgical clarity. Again, your God reigns, comforted his people, redeemed Jerusalem, and all nations get to see it. The nations witness the Israelites' restoration. They do not replace it. They do not inherit it. They do not merge with it. This is a similar salvation to the one that took place in Egypt. The nations become the backdrop to witness what Yahweh had long promised. The gospel is the public vindication of the people God judged, scattered, and now restores. This is not a new covenant people. This is the same covenant people, afflicted, exiled, redeemed, and restored. This is the book of Romans chapter 1 verses 1 through 3, and it reads, Paul, a servant of Jesus Christ, Hamashiach Yahawashi, called to be an apostle, separated unto the gospel of God, which he had promised afore by his prophets in the holy scriptures, concerning his son, Hamashiach Yahawashi, our Lord, which was made of the seed of David according to the flesh. Once again, Apostle Paul does not introduce a new gospel. He announces the arrival of the prophetic gospel. If the gospel was promised beforehand, then the gospel cannot contain anything the prophets did not promise. Paul's gospel is Isaiah's gospel. Isaiah's gospel is Zion's restoration. And Zion's restoration is the covenant fulfilled. This is covenant continuity. It is not replacement theology. If your gospel cannot be found in the prophets, you are not preaching Paul's gospel. You're making it up, leaning on your own understanding. This is the book of Mark, chapter 1, verses 1 through 3, and it reads, "The beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, Hamashiach Yahawashi, the Son of God, as it is written in the prophets, Behold, I send my messenger before thy face, which shall prepare thy way before thee. The voice of one crying in the wilderness, Prepare ye the way of our Lord, make his path straight." Mark does not begin the gospel with Christ's birth. He begins it with Isaiah's prophecy. The gospel begins with the voice in the wilderness, the return of Yahweh, a straight path for the king, and the gathering of his people. Mark is not redefining the gospel, he's locating it. The New Testament gospel is the execution of the prophetic gospel, not a new message, not a new people, not a new covenant structure. The gospel begins where the prophets begin, Zion's restoration. Now we must examine the entry mechanism according to the prophets themselves. With the scriptural foundation established and the gospel defined through the prophets, the next question becomes how individuals come into that restoration, and whether the process itself was already written beforehand. This is the book of John, chapter 6, verse 44, and it reads, "No man can come to me except the Father which has sent me draw him, and I will raise him up in the last day." Christ does not describe a new pathway into covenant life. He does not open the door the prophets never spoke of. He anchors the entire process of coming to him inside of what was already written. It was written in the prophets is not a decorative citation. It is the jurisdictional boundary. Christ establishes that the process itself was already defined beforehand. He later quotes Prophet Isaiah in chapter 54 to further show that he is not speaking of a newly created people, but of the same covenant children the prophets already identified and promised would be taught and restored by God. So when Yahawashi says, "No man can come to me except the Father draw him," he immediately anchors that statement in Isaiah's prophecy. The ones who come are the ones who the Father teaches, and the ones the Father teaches are the children spoken of in the prophets. This is why Christ says, "Every man therefore that hath heard, hath learned of the Father, cometh unto me." That order matters. The Father draws, the Father teaches, the Father establishes. Then they come to the Messiah. The Messiah is indeed the door, but no man reaches that door unless the Father first draws him toward it. Access to the Messiah is governed by the Father himself. Christ is not presenting himself as independent from the prophetic order established beforehand, but as the fulfillment of it. John chapter 6 is not the creation of a new covenant population. It is the fulfillment of the prophetic promise that God would gather, teach, and restore his people according to what was written in the prophets. And this destroys later theology that the Messiah is simply waiting for you to choose him, or that he just wants a relationship, or that salvation begins with human affection. Christ says the opposite. No one comes unless the Father draws him. No one hears unless the Father teaches. No one approaches unless the Father approves. The modern emotional gospel collapses under this precept. The prophetic gospel stands firm. The Father chooses. The Father teaches. The Father is the one who draws. And those he draws are the ones Isaiah identified, the children of Zion being restored. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 54, verses 5 through 15, and it reads, "For thy maker is thine husband, Yahweh Tazabawath, the Lord of hosts, is his name, and thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. The God of the whole earth he shall be called. For Yahweh had called thee as a woman forsaken and grieved in spirit, and a wife of youth, when thou was refused, saith thy God. For a small moment I have forsaken thee, but with great mercies I will gather thee. In a little wrath I hid my face from thee for a moment, but with everlasting kindness will I have mercy on thee, saith Yahweh thy Redeemer. For this is as the waters of Noah unto me. For as I have sworn that the waters of Noah should no more go over the earth, so have I sworn that I will not be wroth with thee, nor rebuke thee. For the mountains shall depart, and the hills be removed, but my kindness shall not depart from thee, neither shall the covenant of my peace be removed, saith Yahweh that hath mercy on thee. O thou afflicted, tossed with tempest, and not comforted, behold, I will lay thy stones with fair colors, and lay thy foundations with sapphires. And I will make thy windows of agates, and thy gates of carbuncles, and all thy borders of pleasant stones. And all thy children shall be taught of Yahweh, and shall a great peace of thy children, shall be the great peace of thy children. In righteousness shalt thou be established, and thou shalt be far from oppression, for thou shalt not fear, and from terror, for it shall not come near thee. Behold, they shall surely gather together, but not by me. Whosoever shall gather together against thee shall fall for thy sake. So Isaiah does not leave the identity of the taught ones open to interpretation. He names them. He describes them. He locates them in covenant history. They are Zion's children, the same people who were forsaken, the same people who were scattered, the same people who were afflicted, the same people who went through perpetual captivity, the same people who were tossed and not comforted. They are the ones God swore not to abandon. They are the ones he promised to gather with great mercies. They are the ones he vowed to rebuild stone by stone. And they are the ones he promised to establish in righteousness. Isaiah is not speaking of a new people. He is speaking of the same covenant people restored after being judged. The teaching of God is not a universal phenomenon. It is a covenant act. It is part of the restoration sequence that was already written: forsaken, scattered, gathered, taught, established. That is the order. God teaches the same people he judged. He restores the same people he scattered. He comforts the same people he afflicted. He renews the same covenant he swore would never be removed. And Isaiah 54 is not the birth of a new covenant population. It is the resurrection of the old one. When Yahawashi quotes Isaiah 54 in John chapter 6, he is identifying his followers as the very children Isaiah spoke of. Not a new flock, not a spiritualized flock, not a replaced flock, the same flock, restored. This is the book of John chapter 6 verse 45, and it reads, "It is written in the prophets, and they shall all be taught of God. Every man therefore that hath heard and hath learned of the Father cometh unto me." Christ does not leave the identity of those who come to him open for speculation. He settles it by the appeal to the prophets. He does not say it is written in the prophets to explain how people come. He says it to identify who comes. The sequence is deliberate. The Father teaches, the taught ones hear, and then the hearers come. Then Christ establishes the prophetic source, and they shall be all taught of God. The question is no longer who we think the taught ones are. The question is who Isaiah said they were. Isaiah does not leave the answer in doubt. The taught ones of God are the children of restored Zion. The forsaken woman is Zion. The scattered woman is Zion. The gathered woman is Zion. The rebuilt city is Zion. Therefore, the children of God are Zion's children. The Messiah could have identified the recipients any way he wished. Instead, he tied them to Isaiah's restoration prophecy, and that means the prophetic audience determines the fulfillment audience. The identity comes from the prophets, not from heathen imagination. And this destroys the claim that John 6 is introducing a new covenant population. The Messiah is not creating a new people. A person cannot come unless the Father draws him. And as it stands in this current religious state, the Father is just a character in their theology. They never quote what he spoke and settled at his throne. That's problematic if you claim being these people, because the Father is the one who draws you. The Father teaches the people he promised to teach. The Son receives the people the Father promised to restore. No prophecy becomes reality if it wasn't forewritten. Nothing is redefined. Everything must be fulfilled. The identity of the recipients. Now that we establish that the process of coming was already written in the prophets, now the next question is whether the apostles themselves preached anything beyond those earlier promises, or whether they consistently declared the fulfillment of what had already been spoken to the fathers. This is the book of Acts, chapter 13, verses 30 through 33, and it reads, "But God raised him from the dead, and he was seen many days of them which came up with him from Galilee to Jerusalem, who are his witnesses unto the people. And we declare unto you glad tidings, how that the promise which was made unto the fathers, God hath fulfilled the same unto us, their children, in that he raised up Jesus, Yahawashi, again, as it is also written in the second Psalm, Thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee." So again, Apostle Paul does not preach a gospel detached from lineage. He does not announce a message floating in theological abstraction. He roots the gospel in bloodline, covenant, and ancestry. The promise made unto the fathers is not some poetic phrase, it is a legal boundary. It means the gospel is the execution of promises made to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and David. And when Paul says fulfilled unto us their children, he's not speaking metaphorically. He is identifying the recipients. He is declaring that the fulfillment belongs to the descendants of the fathers, not to a newly invented covenant population. This is not a universal proclamation. It is a covenant announcement. The gospel is not God abandoning the promises made to the fathers. It is God fulfilling them. And the ones who receive that fulfillment are the ones who stand in the line of those promises. Paul is not redefining the Israelites. He is speaking as an Israelite, speaking to Israelites, and identifying the gospel as the inheritance of Israelites. The identity of the recipients is not up for negotiation. Paul names them their children. Now let's take a look at the second Psalm. This is the book of Psalm chapter 2, verses 6 through 8, and it reads, "Yet have I set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. I will declare the decree. Yahweh said unto me, Thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee. Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the utmost parts of the earth for thy possession." Psalm 2 is not a gentle psalm. It's a coronation decree. It is the enthronement of the Israelites' king in Zion. It is the declaration that the nations do not inherit the Israelites' promises. They submit to the Israelites' king. The nations rage, but they do not replace. They resist, but they do not inherit. They oppose, but they do not become the covenant people. The Son is enthroned in Zion, not in Rome, not in Athens, not in America, not in the Gentile world. The nations are given to him, not as co-heirs, but as subjects. The psalm is the backbone of the apostolic proclamation. When Acts 13 quotes the second psalm, it is invoking the entire context: the Davidic king, the Zion-centered kingdom, the covenant promises, the submission of the nations, and the restoration of the Israelites' rule. The identity of the recipients is not the nations. It is the people ruled by the king in Zion. The nations are not absorbed into the Israelites' covenant. They are brought under the Israelites' king. Psalms 2 does not universalize the covenant. It reinforces its boundaries. Luke chapter 24 verse 44 establishes the Psalms as authoritative as it pertains to the messianic witness. Therefore, Acts 13 citation of Psalm 2 invokes the Psalm's full covenantal and judicial context. You cannot just extract the part about the Son being begotten. You have to take the full context. Thus saith Yahawashi. This is the book of Acts chapter 26 verses 5 through 7, and it reads, which knew me from the beginning, if they would testify that after the most straightest sect of our religion, I lived a Pharisee, and now I stand and am judged for the hope of the promise made of God unto our fathers, unto which promise our 12 tribes, instantly serving God day and night, hope to come, for which hope's sake, King Agrippa, I am accused of the Jews. Paul does not speak as a Christian theologian detached from the Israelite story. He speaks as a Pharisee, a Torah-trained Israelite, a man standing inside the covenantal identity of his people. And he defines the hope not as a new spiritual category, not as a universal salvation plan, not as a Gentile inclusive redefinition, but as the promise made unto our fathers. And he identifies the ones who hope to attain that promise, our 12 tribes. This is not symbolic. Paul is not spiritualizing here. He is not redefining the Israelites. He is not dissolving the Israelites into a new religious entity. He is naming the covenant people by their ancestral title. The 12 tribes are not a metaphor. They are the recipients of the promise. They are the ones who serve God day and night, waiting for the fulfillment of what was spoken to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Paul's gospel is not the creation of a new people. It is the fulfillment of the hope of the 12 tribes. The identity of the recipients is not ambiguous. It is not fluid. It is not open to heathen reinterpretation. Paul names them plainly, the 12 tribes. The gospel is the execution of their hope, not the cancellation of it. Now we look at the restoration framework. With the process of coming established through the prophets, the next issue becomes the message itself. What exactly did the apostles declare as the glad tidings? And who did they identify as the recipients of the promises made unto the fathers? This is the book of Acts chapter 3 verse 21, and it reads, whom heaven must receive until the times of restoration of all things, which God has spoken by the mouth of his holy prophets since the world began. Peter does not describe a new era. He does not announce a new covenant people. He does not unveil a new theological structure. He declares that heaven holds the Messiah in place until the moment arrives for the restoration of everything the prophets already spoke. Restoration is not invention. Restoration is not expansion. Restoration is not replacement. It is the return of something that once existed, the re-establishment of something that was scattered, the renewal of something that was broken. Peter ties the entire mission of the Messiah to the prophetic record, not to church tradition, not to later theology, not to heathen reinterpretation. He says the restoration is everything the prophets spoke since the world began. That means the New Testament is not a new story. It is the continuation of the story God foretold. The story of a covenant people judged, scattered, afflicted, and then restored. The story of a kingdom fallen and then raised. The story of a shepherd who gathers his own flock. The story of the Israelites, not replaced, not redefined, not dissolved. Acts chapter 3:21 is the death blow to every theology that tries to universalize the New Testament, because Peter says the Messiah returns when the restoration the prophets described is complete, and the prophets described one restoration: the children of Israel. This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 37, verses 21 through 28, and it reads, "And say unto them, Thus saith Yahweh, Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whither they be gone, and will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land. And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king to them all. And they shall no more be two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any more at all. Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions. But I will save them out of all their dwelling places wherein they have sinned. And I will cleanse them, so they shall be my people, and I will be their God. And David my servant shall be king over them, and they all shall have one shepherd. And they shall also walk in my judgments, and observe my statutes, and do them. And they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt, and they shall dwell therein, even they and their children, and their children's children, forever. And David my servant shall be their prince forever. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them, and it shall be an everlasting covenant with them. And I will place them and multiply them, and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forever. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yeah, I will be their God, and they shall be my people. And the heathen shall know that I, Yahweh, do sanctify Israel, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forever." Ezekiel does not speak in metaphors. He does not speak in abstractions. He does not speak in spiritualized categories. He speaks matter-factly. speaking of a people scattered among the nations. He speaks of a God physically gathering them back. He speaks of two houses divided. He speaks of God making them one. He speaks of a covenant broken. And he speaks of God renewing it. He speaks of a king from David's line ruling over them forever. This is not a new people. This is not spiritual Israel. It's the same people now being restored. The New Testament doesn't reinterpret Ezekiel. It fulfills him. The scattered are not replaced by the nations. The nations do not become the Israelites. The nations do not inherit the covenant or become joint heirs. The nations witness the restoration of the covenant people God scattered. Ezekiel's vision is not symbolic, it is covenantal. It is national, it is territorial, it is genealogical and prophetic. And it is the framework the apostles stand inside. When Peter speaks of restoration, Ezekiel 37 is the blueprint. When Paul speaks of the hope of the fathers, Ezekiel 37 is the expectation. When Christ speaks of other sheep not of this fold, Ezekiel 37 is the context. The restoration is not the creation of a new people. How are they being restored if they're new? It, therefore, is the regathering of the old people. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 30, verse 3, and it reads, "For lo, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will bring again the captivity of my people, Israel and Judah, saith Yahweh," the northern and southern kingdom, "and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it." Prophet Jeremiah does not speak in abstractions either. He names the people. He names the captivity. He names the restoration. Israel and Judah, northern kingdom, southern kingdom. The same two houses that broke the covenant are the same two houses God promises to restore. There is no third group. Even Paul says in Romans chapter 9, to the Israelites pertain the promises. If there were another group, that statement would be a contradiction. There is no new covenant population. There's just only a new covenant. There is no spiritualized replacement. The restoration is genealogical, historical, covenantal, and territorial. God is not forming a new people. He already chose. He is bringing back the same people he scattered because that's the promise. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 32, verses 37 and 38, and it reads, "Behold, I will gather them out of all countries, whither I have driven them in mine anger, and in my fury, and with great wrath. And I will bring them again unto this place, and I will cause them to dwell safely, and they shall be my people, and I will be their God." Jeremiah's restoration is the global hope in scope, but it's very narrow in identity. God gathers the same people he scattered. This is becoming so repetitive, it should not even have to be continually explained. God does not gather the nations into the land. God gathers the Israelites out of the nations. A people for his namesake. He does not create a new covenant identity, only a new covenant, but with the same people. "They shall be my people" is not a new declaration. It is the renewal of the ancient covenant formula spoken to the fathers, the same thing that the apostles said over and over and over. The New Testament does not reinterpret Jeremiah, it fulfills him. The apostles are not forming a new people, they are witnessing the regathering of an old one. So, after establishing the gospel was promised beforehand, fulfilled according to the scriptures, the next step is identifying the larger prophetic objective the apostles believe they were witnessing. What are the nation's position in the prophetic framework? This is the book of Isaiah chapter 2, verses 2 and 3, and it reads, "And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of Yahweh's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. And many people shall go and say, Come ye, let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways. And we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem." Isaiah's vision is not sentimental. The nations flowing to Zion is not a picture of equality. It is a picture of submission after judgment. The full snapshot includes the line most people ignore: "He shall judge among the nations and shall rebuke many people." The flow of the nations is the result of that rebuke. They come because they have been corrected. They ascend because they have been humbled. They seek instruction because they have been judged. Isaiah does not describe the nations becoming Israelites. He describes the nations approaching after Yahweh has rebuked them. These are survivors. He does not describe the nations inheriting the covenant. He describes the nations submitting to the covenant. The law goes forth from Zion. The authority remains with the covenant people, Israelites, not transferred to the world. The nations come to learn, not to redefine. Isaiah's vision is not universal blending. It is the covenant hierarchy made visible. Israelites restored, nations corrected, order reestablished. This is the book of Zechariah chapter 8 verse 23, and it reads, "For thus saith Yahweh Tazabawath, the Lord of hosts, in those days it shall come to pass that 10 men shall take hold out of all languages of the nations, even shall take hold of the skirt of him that is a Jew, saying, We will go with you, for we have heard that God is with you." Prophet Zechariah doesn't blur the lines either. He sharpens them. The nations do not claim to be Jews. They take hold of a Jew. They do not claim to be the Israelites. They attach themselves to the Israelites. They do not claim covenant identity. They seek covenant access through the people who already possess it. This is not replacement. This is recognition. This is submission. The nations acknowledge that God is with the Israelites, not with them independently, not with them equally, not with them, the nations, covenantally. The nations cling to the Israelites because Israelites remain the covenant people only. Zechariah's vision is not the creation of a newly formed people. It is the exaltation of the original one. This is the book of Amos chapter 9 verses 11 and 12, and it reads, In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof, and I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old, that they may possess the remnant of Edom and of all the heathen which are called by my name, saith Yahweh that doeth this. Amos does not describe the nations inheriting the Israelites' promises. He describes the nations coming under Israelites' restored king. The fallen tent of David is not replaced, it is raised. The kingdom is not transferred, it is restored. The nations do not become the Israelites, they become subject to their king. The phrase called by my name does not mean covenant equality. It means the covenant jurisdiction still belongs under David's throne, the Davidic throne, the Davidic king. Amos is not universalizing the covenant. The nations do not become heirs. They are governed. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 60, verses 10 through 12, and it reads, And the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee. Therefore thy gates shall be open continually. They shall not be shut day nor night, that men may bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles, and that their kings may be brought. For the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Yeah, those nations shall be utterly wasted. Isaiah is still not softening the relationship between the Israelites and the nations who once ruled them. He intensifies it. The nations do not stand beside the Israelites, they stand beneath them. They do not share the covenant identity. The Israelites are the restored order, and the nations serve. They do not inherit. They contribute to the Israelites' rebuilding. The prophetic vision is not a blended humanity. It is a restored Israel with the nations in proper alignment. Service is not equality. Submission is not inheritance. Participation is not identity. Isaiah's vision is the covenant hierarchy made visible. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 62, verses 6 through 9, and it reads, I have set watchmen upon thy walls, O Jerusalem, which shall never hold their peace, day nor night. Ye that make mention of Yahweh, keep not silence, and give him no rest till he establish, and till he make Jerusalem a praise in the earth. Yahweh has sworn by his right hand and the arm of his strength, surely will I no more give thy corn to be meat for thine enemies, and the sons of the stranger shall not drink thy wine for which thou hast labored, but they that have gathered it shall eat it, and praise Yahweh, and they that have brought it together shall drink it in the courts of my holiness. Isaiah 62 is not a vision of universal harmony. It is the vision of covenant reversal, judgment being lifted from off the children and imposed on her oppressors. The watchmen are not symbolic. They are covenant enforcers, and they are stationed at the walls, declaring that the era of foreign domination is over. This is not the nations becoming covenant people. This is the Israelites restored after judgment, after perpetual captivity. It's the same story being preached in all the prophets. And the nations placed in their proper position after their rebuke. those who survive their judgment. Yahweh swears an oath, not to the world, not to a new people or a spiritualized community, but to the same houses that he chose. He reverses the curses given in Deuteronomy 28. He restores the blessings of Leviticus 26. He returns the harvest to the people who gathered it and ends the era of foreign consumption and restores the covenant order. They're not laboring for a foreigner to reap blessings anymore. Isaiah 62 does not describe a blended people, it's a corrected humanity. This is the prophetic framework the apostles must stand inside, unless Yahweh's word comes back void. Who has the authority to speak after he has spoken, after these words have been settled at the throne of heaven? No one. Restoration after judgment, reversal after rebuke, the Israelites restored to their inheritance. That is the context. Now we take a look at the apostolic consistency. With the restoration framework established, the final question is whether the apostles presented themselves as introducing a new interpretive system, or whether they consistently affirm that everything being revealed already contained within the law of Moses and the prophets are now being brought to completion in the Messiah. This is the book of Acts chapter 26 verse 22, and it reads, "Having therefore obtained help of God, I continue unto this day, witnessing both to small and great, saying none other things than those which the prophets and Moses did say should come." Once again, everybody's favorite apostle, Paul, he does not posture as an innovator. He does not present himself as the architect of a new religion as the Christian church props him up. He stands before kings and governors and declares that his entire message is nothing more than the execution phase of what Moses and the prophets already said. This is not humility. This is jurisdiction. Paul himself is placing himself under the authority of the prophetic record. He is binding his doctrine to the covenantal structure already established. He is refusing to speak a single word outside the prophetic script. Only the Christian church does this. They make it whatever they believe it to be. So this destroys every modern attempt to detach the New Testament from the prophets. Paul himself testifies that he has no message apart from theirs. He does not reinterpret them. He does not override them. He doesn't have the authority to expand them. He stands inside them and what they already wrote, because they wrote after hearing from God himself. So the apostolic witness is not a new revelation. It is the prophetic revelation fulfilled. And if your doctrine cannot be found in Moses and the prophets, Paul would not preach it, and Yahawashi would not endorse it. This is the book of 1 Peter chapter 1 verses 10 through 12, and it reads, "Of which salvation the prophets have inquired and searched diligently, who prophesied of the grace that shall come unto you, searching what manner of time the Spirit of Christ which was in them did signify, when it testified beforehand the sufferings of Christ and the glory that should follow, unto whom it was revealed that not unto themselves but unto us they did minister the things which are now reported unto you by them that have preached the gospel unto you with the Holy Ghost sent down from heaven, which things the angels desire to look into. So Peter shuts the door on innovation. The salvation he preaches is the same salvation the prophets investigated. The message is not new. The audience is not new. The covenant belongs to the same people. Unto us they did minister means the prophets were writing to the same people the apostles now address. No redefinition, no expansion, no new covenant population, only just a new covenant. The apostles stand inside that prophetic framework. They speak what the prophets spoke. They minister to the people the prophets ministered to. And if you're not extracting that from the New Testament epistles, you're interpreting them wrong. You're coming up with a private interpretation. There is no new people, only the old people restored. This is the book of James chapter 1 verse 1, and it reads, James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, Hamashiach Yahawashi, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. So James does not write to a universal church. He does not address the spiritualized Israel. He does not speak to a redefined covenant people. He writes to the 12 tribes, the same 12 tribes scattered in judgment. The same 12 tribes promise restoration. The same 12 tribes the prophets spoke of. Apostle James is not confused. He is consistent. He identifies his audience by lineage, by covenant, by prophetic expectation. The scattering is not symbolic, it is historical. The audience is not metaphorical, it is genealogical. James is not creating a new people. He is addressing the same people God scattered and promised to gather. The apostolic letters are not universal broadcast. They are covenant communications to the covenant people. James stands inside the prophetic storyline, not outside of it. This is the book of 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 1, and it reads, Peter, an apostle of Jesus Christ, Hamashiach Yahawashi, to the strangers scattered throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. So Peter is not writing to the nations, he's writing to the diaspora, the scattered of the Israelites. The word strangers does not mean foreigners. It means resident aliens, Israelites living among the nations, displaced from their own land, awaiting restoration. Peter is not addressing a new covenant population. He is addressing the same covenant people in exile. The prophets spoke of a scattered people. Is it making sense, people? Peter is writing to that scattered people. The prophets spoke of a remnant preserved among the nations. Ezekiel promised God is going to go and get them from among those nations. Peter is writing to that remnant. The prophets spoke of a people who would be gathered again. I just read many of them right here in this lesson. Peter is writing to the ones awaiting that gathering. The apostolic mission is not the creation of a new audience. It's the recovery of the old one. Peter's audience It's not the nations becoming the Israelites. It is the Israelites living among the heathen. This is the book of Titus, chapter 2, verse 14, and it reads, "Who gave himself for us, that he might redeem us from all iniquity, and purify unto himself a peculiar people, zealous of good works." So Paul does not redefine the hope. He does not create a new expectation. He does not introduce a new covenant identity. He uses the same language the prophets use and applies it to the same people the prophets addressed. The blessed hope is not a new Christian concept. It is the same hope he identified in Acts 26, verses 6 through 7, which I already read. The promise made to the fathers, awaited by the 12 tribes. Paul is not shifting the hope. He's naming it again. The appearing of the Messiah is the fulfillment of that same expectation, who gave himself for us. Does not broaden the audience. It narrows it. The us is the same covenant people he identifies everywhere else. The children of the fathers, the scattered of the Israelites, the ones the prophets said would be redeemed and restored. Redeem us from all iniquity is covenant language. Redemption is not a universal category. How are you redeemed when the Lord never chose you? It is the recovery of a people already owned. It is the purchase of what already belonged to God. It is the restoration of a relationship that was broken, not the creation of a new one. Purify himself, purifying unto himself a peculiar people, that's not a new identity. That's the same phrase used in Torah to describe the children of Israel, as God's segula, his treasured possession, his covenant people, his set apart nation. Paul is not redefining who the peculiar people are. He's affirming the same identity Moses established. Paul is not writing new theology. He's documenting. Who are the scriptures that came before Paul calling the people peculiar? Who are the only people God himself claimed as his peculiar people? Let's take a look at what was already written. This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 14 verse 2, and it reads, "For thou art an holy people unto Yahweh thy God, and Yahweh had chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto himself, above all the nations that are upon the earth." So Moses identifies the peculiar people directly. No ambiguity exists. Nowhere else in the whole Bible are people likened by God himself as his peculiar people. So who would give Paul the authority to create a new identity of peculiar people when God himself is the standard and sets the standard by which Paul even has a gospel? The peculiar people are the covenant nation that God chose from among the nations on the earth. When Paul uses the same covenantal designation in the book of Titus, he's not assigning it to a new people, but to a lost people, a people among the heathen. This is the book of Psalm, chapter 135, verse 4, and it reads, "For Yahweh had chosen Jacob unto himself, and Israel for his peculiar treasure." So David confirms the identity Moses laid down. The peculiar people are Jacob. The peculiar treasure are the Israelites. The covenant designation remains attached to the same people throughout the scriptures from Genesis to Revelations. Nothing in the book of Titus suggests a transfer, replacement, or redefinition of that identity. Paul's not creating a new peculiar people. He is describing the purification of the peculiar people Yahweh already claimed as his own. So, the identity remains unchanged. The covenant remains unchanged. The hope remains unchanged. The Messiah is not creating a new people for himself. He is sent to redeem, purify, and restore the same peculiar treasure. This is the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 3, and it reads, "For I deliver unto you first of all that which I also received, how that Christ died for our sins according to the scriptures." So, if Paul doesn't claim authorship of the gospel, he claims transmission. I delivered what I received. That's a legal confession. That means Paul is not the source. He is a courier of a message already established. Paul does not present the death of the Messiah as a new revelation. He does not say Christ died according to a new doctrine. He does not say Christ died according to a mystery never before spoken. He said Christ died according to the scriptures. Now, this is a devastating statement for any theology that treats the New Testament as an independent system. The centerpiece of the apostolic message, the death of the Messiah itself, is not grounded in a new revelation. It's grounded in the scriptures already written. So the question immediately becomes, what scriptures? Because Paul cannot be referring to the New Testament because it had not yet been written. Nope. No John 3:16, which wasn't even written yet. He's referring to Moses. He's referring to the prophets. He is referring to the Psalms. The very event many claimed created a new covenant people is itself presented by Paul as the fulfillment of what was already recorded. This means the death of the Messiah cannot be reintroduced to affirm a people the scriptures never identified, a covenant the scriptures never promised, and a recipient or recipients the scriptures never named. Christ died for our sins according to the scriptures is not universal. It is a jurisdictional statement. The hour is the covenant people Isaiah spoken of in chapter 53. So, Paul anchors the Messiah's death in the prophets, not outside them. He does not preach a new atonement recipients. He preaches the execution of the atonement the prophets declared. He preaches the vindication of the covenant identity that was already sworn at Sinai. I will show you even more proof. Let's move on. This is the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 16, and it reads, "For you are the temple of the living God, as God has said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people." So once again, no new formation of people are being formed here. He is identifying the same people God already claimed. It says, "You are the temple of the living God." That's not a universal statement. That's covenant designation. That's the same language spoken to the Israelites in Torah and the prophets. Once again, no expansion, just affirmation. Paul's epistle says, "As God has said," and that is the boundary. Paul is not speaking independently. He's quoting the covenant formula from Leviticus 26:11 through 12 and Ezekiel 37:27, which I read, both spoken exclusively to the Israelites. I will dwell in them, and they shall be my people. We read this. We literally read this. He is not spiritualizing. He is applying it to those who stand inside the prophetic restoration framework, lost among the nations, residing in Corinth. So this destroys the idea of the formation of a new Gentile church identity detached from the Israelites. It destroys it. He's identifying the Corinthians that he is addressing as participants in the same covenant that the prophets described, even though they may not know who they belong to, because they have been amalgamated amongst the heathen who rule them. So anyone who uses that verse to argue for a new covenant people is ignoring the source that Paul quotes and the covenant formula he invokes. This is not a new theology being written. It is the prophetic fulfillment documented. This is the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 1, and it reads, Moreover, brethren, I would not that ye shall be ignorant how that all our fathers were under the cloud, and all passed through the sea, and were all baptized unto Moses. Now, Paul, again, he does not say their fathers. He says our fathers. Our fathers. Paul is writing to a Corinth assembly and still calls the ancestors of the Exodus our fathers. Now, how is this so if he's speaking to a detached Gentile population? But rather, he is identifying his audience as participants in the same ancestral line that passed through the sea, followed the cloud, and entered into covenant at Sinai. How else are the fathers of the recipients of the epistles being identified as descendants of the people who passed under the clouds, being baptized unto the Moses while passing through the sea? How is that even possible if this was just random heathens in a Gentile church assembly in Corinth? So just this verse alone destroys the idea that Paul is addressing a mixed non-Israelite body. He is addressing a people he considers to be descendants of the same fathers who came out of Egypt. And if the fathers of the Exodus are our fathers, then the audience is not a new people. They are the same people, a destroyed people, a scattered people, a captive people, a dispersed people, not the rulers who are over them in that land. Once again, this is not a universal statement. It's a genealogical one. It's covenant continuity. Anyone who uses Paul to argue for a new people of God is ignoring Paul's own language. He calls the Exodus generation our fathers. So, the New Testament is not the expansion of the covenant to the nations. It is the confirmation of the covenant to the fathers. The nations witness the fulfillment. They do not inherit the identity. Christ stands inside the covenantal boundary God already established. He does not redraw them. He does not erase them. He does not broaden them. He confirms them. The entire New Testament stands or falls on one reality. The Messiah and the apostles never strayed from the prophetic framework. They did not create a new people. They did not universalize the promises. They did not dissolve the covenant boundaries. They executed the script, which was already written. The gospel they preached is the same gospel Isaiah announced. The good news to Zion, the return of God to his people, the restoration of the flock he scattered. The mechanism they described is the same mechanism the prophets declared. God drawing, teaching, restoring the children of Zion. The recipients they addressed are the same recipients the prophets named. The children of the fathers, the 12 tribes, the scattered of Israel awaiting regathering. The mission they carried out is the same mission the prophets foresaw. The restoration of all things spoken from the beginning. The nations do not become Israelites. They do not become spiritual Israelites. They become witnesses of the Israelites being restored. They do not inherit the covenant. They submit to the covenant order God reestablishes. They do not replace the people God judged. They recognize the people God restores. That is the prophetic hierarchy which must remain intact. The covenant identity remains intact. The apostolic message remains inside the boundaries Moses and the prophets established. The New Testament is not a new story. It's the continuation of the story God once foretold. A people chosen, judged, scattered, preserved, and restored. A kingdom fallen and risen again. A covenant broken and renewed. A shepherd who gathers his own flock. A king enthroned in Zion. And a remnant recovered from among the nations. A promise to the fathers and fulfilled to their children. There is no new foundation. There is no new identity. There is no new covenant people detached from the old covenant people. There is only the original covenant restored. This is the prophetic spine of the New Testament. This is the apostolic method. This is the Messiah's own hermeneutic, and everything else is just a bunch of noise. And with that, we give all honor, glory, and praises to Yahweh, the eternal power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the righteous judge, and the Holy One of Yasha Allah. And blessings be upon the elect through Hamashiach Yahawashi, the anointed King, the Lion of Judah, the deliverer of Zion, the mighty intercessor raised up by the Most High himself. Yahweh alone is the receiver of all praise, and Yahawashi is the door, the mediator, the high priest, the vessel by whom we are reconciled and have access. May the Most High give you eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart to obey. May your steps be ordered by his word, your faith proven by your works, and your soul preserved in the day of visitation. Barakatham Bahashem Yahweh Bahashem Hamashiach Yahawashi. Barakatham Banyam Yasha Allah Kwam Yasha Allah Kwam Malak Kwam Tazadak Ka Halayam La Yahweh Thumb Yad. It's your brother Aklamak, and I hope you all were edified and shalom.